Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, and I'm back with another speculation video. So now that we've had time for that roadmap to set in, I wanted to speculate more about the flirtatious expansion pack that we're supposed to be getting within these next few months. Typically, we get a love-themed pack very early on in the game's life cycle, like say The Sims Hot Date or The Sims 2 Nightlife, or even The Sims 3 Generations, which did have romance as part of it. But we may have an idea of what the premise of The Sims 4's romance expansion is going to be, and I'm also going to speculate about some other things that we may get. Thanks to fellow content creator Simmer Aaron for bringing this up. You may remember a pair of big surveys that came out in 2020 outlining possible things that we may get. I know I've also referenced them many times in my previous videos. We both bring up these surveys for good reason. There's a history of some of these things coming true. Like, for example, one of the surveys having a whole section dedicated to snow activities, and then months later we get Snowy Escape with most of the activities that were included on the survey. No snowmobiles though. But what Simmer Aaron brought up this time was the synopsis for a modern love and romance pack. It says, from love at first sight to digital dating, discover a wide variety of relationship types for your Sims, explore their desires, taste, and preference. Take them on a journey to discover what works for them. So let's break this down here. Digital dating, I've never heard of it said that way before. I've always seen it referred to as online dating, and I was already thinking there was a very good chance that we were getting this, because on the roadmap you may have noticed there's a phone with a heart on it, so I can't imagine what that could possibly mean besides online dating. So that is the one thing that I'm for sure expecting with this new expansion pack. Interesting too that they mentioned desires, taste, and preference. So we have preferences with the likes and dislike system now, but I think this also raises the chances that we are going to be getting an attraction system that is more inclined to romance rather than just sort of like a general sort of thing. But also, with online dating being extremely likely, I think that also greatly increases the chances of a romantic attraction system, because theoretically how a dating app would work is that you go and create your Sim's profile, and from there you would outline their interests, their likes and dislikes, maybe even integrating the ones from growing together, and also romantic preferences. So then you could say your Sim's favorite color is blue, and their ideal evening involves skiing down the slopes of Mount Komorebi and playing the pipe organ afterwards, but also outlines some romantic preferences, like if they prefer a certain hair color, or an occult type like a vampire or an alien, or maybe like if they have a preference for a Sim in a certain career, things like that. But of course, you wouldn't have to be honest about your Sim if you don't want to. You could just completely deceive other Sims, and then when you actually go on a date with one of them, then they could get really angry at you. There's also one section of the surveys that talks about relationship improvements, and we kind of have one of those already, like with relationship tone. It says like short-term states, such as being furious with another Sim, and that's basically what we got with the sentiment system. Also, with initiated romance, my memory is fuzzy on this specific part. I think with high school years, other Sims can ask your Sim to prom autonomously and can ask to be your significant other, but I don't think other Sims outside of your household can just propose marriage to you. But I think alongside a romance expansion pack, it could be part of the base game update that other Sims could propose marriage to your Sim. The shared personal history, I guess we kind of also have as part of the sentiment system, but that is still a much shorter term thing, so that would be nice if they managed to deepen that. For the more relationship types, I'm not sure what they would add other than that bromance example. I mean, that would be kind of funny if that was in the pack, but I think it is going to be very focused on actual romance rather than, oh, haha, they're having a bromance. But they do bring up relationship compatibility. You could say that it is covered by the social compatibility system in growing together, but that could still also apply to romantic relationships. I also want to bring up this part of the survey. So even though we have NPC story progression in the form of neighborhood stories, they haven't done much with it since those first two updates. We are able to have our Sims autonomously adopt horses if we have Horse Ranch, but nothing other than that. And I think they could add more romantic neighborhood stories, because I know there's like the phone calls that can come up where you can suggest your Sims to pursue a relationship, but it could maybe also be added so that Sims outside of your current household could pursue their own romantic relationships without your intervention and eventually get married too. And of course, also the possibility of them breaking up autonomously, so it's not like every single one of those relationships works out. I could see this turning out to be very glitchy. I've seen enough complaints about neighborhood stories as they currently are with so many Sims, like adopting babies and pets if they allow it, but I still could imagine it happening anyway. But it would be nice if they adjusted neighborhood stories so those things are more likely to happen to your Sims if they have certain traits that make sense. So if your Sim has the romantic trait, then they are more likely to get into romantic relationships on their own, especially if they aren't already with another Sim. After that, shopping malls are mentioned. I think it's a very slim chance of them being included in this pack, but I can imagine that being a new sort of activity that you could do while on a date. Go to the shopping mall. You wouldn't be able to run any of the shops yourself in a pack like this or be the mall cop, but I wouldn't completely rule it out. I just keep thinking back to The Sims Hot Date. Even though that was on a much smaller scale than a full-on shopping mall, they did add shops for the first time through that pack. Now, this last idea I'm doing mostly for fun. I mean, if they made a whole game pack just for running a restaurant, then logically they would do the same thing with hotels, right? But hotels were mentioned in one of the surveys. Design and run a resort, care for guests, manage employees, and become a 5-star resort, and vacation at a resort. Take your Sims on a splendid vacation to a luxury hotel. I was saying in a previous video that, like just romance as a whole expansion pack doesn't seem to be enough, but hotels could tie in really well to the whole love theme. So while I don't completely rule it out, I think if they were to put hotels in this, we would just be able to vacation to them and the management part would be left out. We would not be able to run our own 5-star hotels. So I guess this probably won't happen, but I still can't completely deny it at the same time. There's also the for rent factor, because hotels would most likely use something very similar or exactly the same as what residential rentals did. So I don't think they'd release 2 rental type packs basically back to back, even though they are different years. But hey, if they can have these 2 surveys come out in 2020 and still be using ideas from them 4 years later, then at least we still have a chance of seeing hotels eventually, even though we'll probably have to wait until at least next year for them. Oh right, I almost forgot. There's actually one other aspect of the surveys I wanted to discuss, and that is one of them bringing up what sort of world we would like to see out of these ideas that they listed. So, taking a look back at these, we haven't really gotten that many. Like, you could say, since Tartosa is more Mediterranean inspired in general, we kinda crosses off Spanish City and Greek islands. Maybe Italian vineyards too, since there is that decorative vineyard near the top of the beach area. but I think maybe a romance pack could cover one of these ideas. With that in mind, it is kind of funny that there's no French-inspired idea on this list, but with Snowy Escape, they could have done a Swiss mountain town instead of a Japanese theme, but I am glad they went with a Japanese-inspired world because we didn't have anything like that in The Sims 4 yet. A Brazilian beach town could still be a pretty solid pick for a romance theme, and Scottish Highlands, or even the Swiss mountain town for real, I think those could also work. But still, take this list with a grain of salt, because thinking to the most recent worlds, Chestnut Ridge, San Sequoia, Tomarang, those don't have any relation to the ideas on the survey, so there is a chance that they could throw a world at us that they've never really mentioned in any sort of capacity. And that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I was thinking of talking about activities that I would like to see in a romance expansion pack, because that is something they could put more of a focus on instead of things like shopping malls or hotels. But I had so much to say, I feel like that could be a video by itself. So stay tuned for that. That one will focus much less on surveys though, and more of just ideas of things that I've been wanting. There's only a couple of things I can think of right now that actually have been included on previous surveys. But feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think they are going to use this modern love and romance idea for this expansion pack and some of the other things I mentioned in this video? And be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!